So yeah, as I say, welcome to this session, the coaching and mentoring training and orientation session. So just a quick overview. We're going to do really short introductions shortly, and then go over the kind of basic goals for the session. Then actually at that kind of point, we're going to hand over to Iveta and Suzanne, who are actually really leading this session today. I'm just kind of introducing it. And at the end, I'll hand over, or they'll hand over to Luke, who'll kind of walk you through the more kind of procedural aspects of the program, and we'll take questions as well. So that's the kind of basic overview. So yeah, at this point, let's just do a quick go round. We don't have long for this, but we think it's really important for everyone to arrive in the session. So if you could just say your name and something that the reason why you've come today, some motivation that's kind of brought you here today. So thank you all for those great introductions. It's really great to arrive together in this process. So I'm going to jump back into the PowerPoint. So yeah, just to go over some of the goals really quickly. I didn't mention this at the start, but I think we're just going to spend a couple of moments just understanding why you might need mentoring, although there's been a lot of reasons given already that are compelling. And then this is the part we'll hand over to Iveta and Suzanne. But yeah, understanding what mentoring is and maybe what it isn't, as well as touching on coaching as a separate thing. And getting some kind of hands-on experience of mentoring activities through some activities that Iveta and Suzanne have got planned. And then, as I say, at the end, kind of coming back to the actual process that's structuring this program. So in terms of why do we need coaching and mentoring? I mean, I think as you've already indicated, you probably know this, but just so you can get something of our perspective on this. For me, it all began with seeing Graziano da Silva talk in 2016, when he was kind of introducing a series of processes around agroecology. And he said this, which is the future of agriculture is not input intensive, but knowledge intensive. And it really kind of stirred something in me. And I think that and it's continued to kind of rattle around in my head ever since, because it kind of really showed for me, the kind of the difference in the system that we're often, through agroecology, or however you call it, the system that we're advocating, how different it is from the kind of mainstream dominant paradigm. So in short, this kind of leads me to think, okay, so we need a new way of doing things. And I think as part of that, we might understand the why part. We can see the injustice, the unsustainability, the toxic nature of the dominant system, and we know for that reason that we need a different system. And to a certain extent, although obviously not completely, we understand maybe the what as part of that. So we understand, there are many experienced people here that are living this. And practicing this kind of new system in the context of this kind of toxic dominant paradigm. So a lot of that information is there, a lot of that kind of knowledge is there, but we might, I think, go as far as to say that we don't know the who and the how so much. So when I say the who, I mean the mentors, the people that actually have the knowledge, are in short supply. As a really interesting and related project that's been run by Sustain on short food supply chains. They did a survey of 500 farmers in the UK. This is one of the biggest things that they pulled up, that they noticed. There's loads of people out there that want to make this transition, but they can't access the knowledge. They can't access the expertise or the support or the mentoring or the advice to help them in that transition. So that's a massive gulf between the kind of people that are kind of demanding and moving into this space of a kind of new vision for agriculture and food systems, but can't find the advice and support. So there's a kind of intergenerational, or at least a kind of knowledge exchange crisis that's kind of, I would say, is afflicting agroecology and related ways of thinking about food systems. And then the how, because as we probably all know only too well, it isn't just about information. It isn't just about transferring ideas. It's about knowledge, which is much more complex than just the transfer of information. And often there's a desire for a kind of bottom up, a really location or context specific kind of knowledge, and also a kind of a horizontal or slightly more kind of mutualistic, as we've already been talking about, a slightly more mutualistic way of thinking about how knowledge is exchanged. And it's been really great to hear people say already that they're, you know, even if they're coming as mentors, that they're expecting to learn as well. So yeah, not any kind of knowledge transfer will do. It's something slightly more held and mutualistic and horizontal. And in that sense, that's why we've gravitated towards mentoring and coaching to a lesser extent. And I think just overall, going back to the Sustain and the Farmgate survey, we just need more research and lived experiences of these kind of relationships, so that we can scale them out, so that we can improve them in the future. So that's my potted account of why we need this. And yeah, that's all I was going to say on that. And so at that point, I'm actually going to hand over to Iveta, I think, to take you through the next portion.
Fantastic, Chris. Thank you so much. Right. Thank you so much for setting the scene for us. Chris and Luke brought Suzanne and me here to share our experience with coaching and mentoring. So that's the pure reason why we are here. We can't mentor you, as you can see from our experience, but we can offer something else. I'm going to share slides, and can you see my slides?
I can't yet.
Yeah, excellent.
No, I can't. I don't think we can see them.
Sorry?
I can't see the slides yet. I don't know about
you can't. Else. Oh dear. No. Okay, hold on.
Yeah, something's.
Oh, excellent. Yeah. No matter how many times you do it, it surprises you every time. So, okay. There is not one good way how to do mentoring, okay? There are many, many ways how you can do it. We noticed with Suzanne that within the coach program, coaching and mentoring words are used interchangeably. So what we wanted to do first is to actually make some kind of order in this and to put us on the same page. So my few slides, my few explanations are exactly aiming at this. So what is mentoring, what is coaching, and what is difference? Okay. Any views on that from any of you? Okay, I said and explain it. Both, if I have a coach and if I have a mentor, both are the people who will help me to move forward, to do something beneficial for myself, to move forward in career, move forward in life. But they both do it in a different way. Mentor, as Chris already said, is somebody who is already experienced in what I'm trying to do. Coach, on the other hand, doesn't need to have content-specific experience. It doesn't need to be a really good farmer. But coach is trained in having good structured conversation with me, which would, in a way, help me to help myself. When we go for mentoring, for mentors, it's always much better to have very specific goals. Coaching can help you if you're a bit confused, you're not quite sure where you are in life, and you really want to move forward. Coaching can help you clarify what is it and sharpen what is it that you really want to achieve. But when you have a mentor who have has content-specific expertise, it's really important to have specific goals, how you can use this person's expertise for your benefit. And the mentor is there to offer you advice. Their role is not to solve your situation, not to do problem solving for you to deal with your issues, but to offer advice, suggest something which you might try to do, or point you to resources. The mentor is there to discuss various things. They share their experience, they might suggest directions. Coach, as I said, it's not there to advise, but help you to explore options. And, I'm very structured and analytical, based on my scientific training. But what I came to realize that it's really important when you talk about future, when you talk about what you want to do, to talk about emotions behind various things, because how we feel about various things really determines if we do certain things or not. And coaches are trained to do that, to help you explore this. But as I said, coaching and mentoring have a lot in common. Nothing is going to happen if you don't trust your mentor, if you don't trust your coach, if you don't have a confidence in them as a person. And to help you to get maximum from any interactions, be it coaching or mentoring, asking good questions, but even more importantly, to really, really listen. And we will come to listening slightly later on. It's really important, because unless you really explore where the other person is and where they want to be, you cannot help them in any other way. Coaching and mentoring, they're also good for a bit of accountability. Sometimes we have lots of plans, lots of goals, but then life happens and other people want lots of things for us, and we tend to push our own goals aside. So having regular sessions with coach or mentor gives you accountability. So the key difference is that mentor is somebody who has expertise in the area where you want to develop. Coach, on the contrary, has very different skills and helps you to help yourself. And it's a key difference. So I would suggest that in the remit of this project, we would talk more about mentoring you can provide to each other. So if you imagine you're looking for a mentor from and I know that some of you were already assigned to have a mentor, would you want this person to be, what skills you want them to have in order to be a good mentor to you, that you would really, really value them as a mentor? If you put it in chat and Luke or Chris can read it, because I can't read chat, I think that might be quite helpful. What do you think good mentor, what are the skills you would expect good mentor to have for you to feel really good?
Maybe as well, if people want to use the raise the hand function as well, if they want to say something, that could also work as well. But it's also used to chat as well. I think that's good. Yeah.
Turns out I can see the chat, and Sharka put ability to deep listening, active listening. Anything else? Empathy, absolutely. What else you would expect from mentor to have?
I think it's sharing of lived experience is very valuable, and lessons learned.
Absolutely, lessons learned, practical experience. Thank you, Peter. Confidence, big vision. Ask questions, yes. Non-judgmental, absolutely. Storytelling, yeah, it's very, very good point, Sam. We learn from stories from other people. As Peter said, asking open questions, yes. Open questions really do help us, and we come back to questions later, to give people opportunity to actually tell us stories. Reflection is incredibly important activity, and ability to reflect as a mentor, but also to support mentees to reflect what has happened, what my role was in that situation, what can I learn from that, and how am I going to use this knowledge in the future is really important. And good communication skills Thank you, Irakli. So really, really good points, all of those. So to sum it up, expertise, absolutely. Have interest. If somebody is not really committed, you're doing it half-heartedly, it doesn't really have the results it should have. Being present, somebody said really good listening skills. When we are present, what we mean by that is that we really focus on what other person is doing, not checking emails, not thinking about myself. And sometimes it happens that the person says something which sort of suddenly makes our mind wandering to our own problems. And it's really important to be aware of this and force yourself to go back. And even, you know, if we lose the thread where the person is, it's okay to admit it and just say, you know, I sort of wandered into my own world. Can you please repeat me what you were saying? It was really interested and evoked lots of thoughts in me, and just admit, but being present so that the person really feels we are there for them. Non-judgmental, building trust, all of these things help towards gradually building trust and setting the expectations right. Come back to that later. Again, very, 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 very important. Listening, holding silence. Silence is equally important as talking, because some people, they need a bit more time to form their ideas, their thoughts. So by holding the silence, even if it might be a little bit uncomfortable to start with, is actually incredibly helpful. It helps people to think very deeply, think more. And the same with questions. Questions should be open, but they can be really simple. If you ask somebody, what are you taking away from today? They go da, 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 da. And then when you say, so what else? It usually makes people to think even more. So sometimes simple and open questions are really important. Sometimes closed questions are equally important. When somebody said, I want to do this, you ask them, so are you going to start doing it tomorrow? To hold them. So both types of questions have their own importance depending on situation. Constructive feedback, somebody said being non-judgmental and offering reflections, observations in a way that doesn't seem really judgy. You know, it's quite good to ask permission. If you say, thank you very much for sharing all of this, can I offer observation? So in that way, the person can feel relaxed and not being sort of being criticized or judged. Session management, it's really important thing as well, because mentoring as well as coaching sessions should have some kind of structure. You don't want just to have a moan about the situation, how it is. You want to focus it on a problem. You want to explore the situation. You want to explore where the person is and explore where they want to be, what they want to get out of it. And then gradually watching time, if you agree on 1 hour, watching time, how the session develops so that you have enough time to explore the situation, but also discuss what can be done about that. You know, what comes from your expertise, what you would suggest, to tease out what the other person thinks about that, how that fits in with their environment and what to do. And then really try to make them focus on, okay, so what are you going to do? What are you willing to try from this? How does that fit? And the person should ideally leave. It's this clear set of actions. If you leave it in this moment where it's very difficult for other person to pick it up and have to start thinking again, nothing usually happens. So this is the session management, watching time, but also the conversation, and sort of try to narrow it down towards, okay, so how are you going to use what I'm just telling you, what we're discussing, how are you going to use it in your practice? Relationship management, come back to that later, but it's really it's a relationship. It doesn't happen overnight. It happens over the sessions, and this is how it happens. Watching time. I think Luke developed recorded really good videos, and with the initial interactions we have, we sometimes refer it to as chemistry conversation. It's the first session you have with your mentee, and the chemistry conversation comes from the simple fact that if you don't like the person, if you don't feel comfortable, if you don't feel relaxed enough, if you feel you can't share, that there's no point going forward. So this is opportunity to meet. In your case, because you know already each other reasonably well, I think all of this would happen in your first session. So sometimes chemistry conversation can be 20 minutes, just really getting to know each other and seeing if I can work with that person. But because you know each other, it can be longer session where you need to already focus on some of the things. So setting expectations right, briefly introduce each other to yourself, where you're coming from, what you can offer, and sort of explain again what you see as good mentoring, what you can offer, and what you really can't offer. It's important to stress confidentiality. All those discussions should be confidential, and by stressing it and repeating it at the beginning of each session, sort of gives reassurance to the mentee that they can really relax and they can share freely what is on their mind, and also discuss some practicalities. You know, how often do you meet? How are you going to communicate? Location? Are you going to meet through Zooms or other means? You know, phones. How many sessions? You know, all of these practicalities are also important to set at the very beginning. But this initial session also allows you to explore, as I said, where your mentee is at the moment, what is happening, what they need from you, how you can benefit them, where they want to be at the end of mentoring, what is it they want to change in their life in practice, and also discuss the goals in more details. To have goals is quite beneficial because it focuses you. Sometimes, you know, stuff happens and you need to refine your goals, you move in slightly different direction. But to have goals, to know where you're aiming is incredibly important. And also to know, how do you know that you achieve your goals? How are you going to measure? How would you know that you are successful in achieving it? I'll give you an example, a really simple example from yesterday when I had coaching session, and the person said, I feel I'm not reading enough for my research. I'm you know, need to do all sorts of things. I'm feeling I don't read enough. And I said, how would you know you're reading enough? And it completely froze conversation because, you know, so we started discussing in what context and for what purpose it would be enough reading. So it's really important to discuss the success. When would you know you will be successful? What you want to achieve, and the plan. What can you do to achieve your goals, and plan it together, how you can help each other. I stop talking and stop sharing my slides. And before I pass over to Suzanne, are there any questions? No questions at the moment. Okay.
Could we just those last two images you put up?
Yes.
They looked interesting. I hadn't finished reading them.
Oh, okay. I think we're definitely going to share slides, and quite frankly, you know, this is really short time. It's more like school, us telling us various things, whilst, you know, all of it, what we say here today, I think you need to think it through and how it fits with you, because every person is different. And what I'm saying in more general terms means slightly different things to each of you. So how can you take it and make it yours is really important. So we will share slides, and for you to have the opportunity to think about it and to think about how you make it yours. Suzanne, can I pass over to you?
Yeah, would you be able to reshare those slides?
Sorry, yes, I should be. I should be.
Okay.
I completely forgot that I should share slides for you as well.
So Peter, I'm going to come to these two now. If we could go back just one slide, please, Iveta, to the listening slide.
Okay.
That would be great.
Yeah, it would if it worked.
Okay. All right. Obviously your comments in the chat, this is falling on we're pushing on an open door here in terms of a way of working, a way of being through relationships, through conversation, which aims to collaborate, develop innovative new ways of thinking, new ways of doing in the service of better futures. So I think there's a perfect alignment between the philosophy, the fundamental kind of premises of coaching and mentoring that really, just sit very happily alongside the larger aims that you as a community are trying to achieve with and for others and for future generations. So just to log that first. So what you've been hearing is that mentoring is essentially it's a collaborative learning relationship. And I guess the alchemy of it, if we can call it that, in which the mentee becomes an expert, or at least feels more expert, is that the mentor creates the conditions, they create a safe container in which the mentee can thrive, receive guidance that helps to enhance their technical skill, that grows their knowledge, but also helps to grow their ability to reflect on and to refine their professional practice. And this is what I love about coaching and mentoring, is that they are sustainable forms of development, because at the end of the process, the mentee will go away with that muscle of self-reflexivity all that much stronger. And that will stand them in good stead as they approach new challenges into the future. They may know more, but they may think better for themselves. So it's not simply what gets discussed in the conversation, but how it's discussed, that, what it feels like, what it looks like, and what it sounds like for the mentee to be in that relationship space that delivers the clarity of purpose and helps them to transition from novice to expert. And there's two key skills, or more importantly, practices or ways of being, that this is facilitated, and you've already identified them in the chat: the ability to listen well and to ask open questions that promote thinking. So let's stay with listening for just a moment. Nancy Klein, whose quote is referenced here, I trained with Nancy in something called the thinking environment, which has an application in one-to-one coaching, in teams, in groups, where the aim is to get to shift from current thinking into what's possible, to discovery of new information and new ways forward. And what Nancy says is that the quality of our actions is determined by the quality of the thinking that we do first. And so our business, when we come together as mentors and mentees, is to do some great thinking together. And it's the listening element which sets the tone and unlocks that thinking to go where it needs to go. If it's ungrammatical, if it's kind of speculative, it's creating that safety to do that. And there's something from neuroscience which really demonstrates why thinking is important. If an individual goes into a conversation with the fear of being judged, that they'll be criticized, that somehow they'll be left feeling wanting, the brain will go into its fight-flight function. And what happens is that all of the nourishment, all of the energy that's needed for good thinking is channeled into that safety mechanism. So by experiencing, conversely, a great place to think, a sense of safety, interest, and curiosity, the dopamine release will support great thinking. So the real benefit of great listening is much more comprehensive than you might think. It's much more than information gathering for the mentor, but it's eliciting new information for the mentee by inviting them to think for themselves. And by the individual gaining clearer sense of what it is they're saying, this helps the mentor to empathize, which creates environment and can deliver even greater learning. So what is good listening? It's a combination of attention, what we're focusing on, and intention, what your motivation is in that moment. It's not about you as mentor finding out, it's not about you amassing more information for yourself, but working together to expand that field of awareness and knowledge in the service of what is it, the change that the mentee wants to see, what is the outcome they are looking to bring about, the transformative outcome. So good listening isn't about queuing up to speak. It's not just about quelling the impulse to offer a solution that may have worked for us in a time past in a different context. It means putting aside your own judgment and validating the other person's perspective and inviting them on, go on, what else, about using that as a basis for idea generation. So as you know, with communication, body language is crucial. It sends those indirect messages of, I'm interested, I'm here, I'm with you, let's do this. But that said, there's no blueprint for what it looks like, the exact tilt of the head, the right number of nods. Its authenticity lives from your intent. But certainly what it does mean as you prepare for those sessions is coming to them free from as much clutter, internal psychological clutter, as you can possibly muster. So that might mean a 5-minute walk around the block, just to put aside what you've come from so that you can be in that space with purpose. It means managing interruptions. It means not trying to handle emails and watch notifications as you are sitting with one another. But those internal distractions are probably the ones that are really going to hook you. So thinking as you move forward, how are you going to prepare for these sessions so that you get the vitamins, the real learning and the insight that you want to get? I'm conscious of time, but I want to give you an experience of doing this, of tuning in to one another in pairs in breakout rooms. And when I say tune in, just really listen out for the different things that you are hearing, the tone of voice, the motivation, listening for the feet, it's sometimes called. Where's the person coming from? What aspiration is this pointing to? What are they really saying? What are they not saying? What are the feelings? Just try as much as you can to tune in to what the other person is saying. So what I'm proposing is just 2 minutes each way in your breakout space, and Chris is going to put us into pairs to do that. And then we'll come back together. So 2 minutes each way, and the brief is, say anything out loud. What's on your mind? Start talking.